Very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I rise specifically to speak to the new clause in my name, clause 24. It was considered at committee. I'm most grateful to my honourable friend, the member for Brent North, who moved it in committee, and I'm grateful to the Minister as well for his response to the clause, and I'm grateful to the honourable members for Loughborough and for West Suffolk, who've added their names to the clause on the order paper. I'm grateful to the Minister for his reply in committee, but I think his reply missed the crucial central point in the amendment. At the moment, the risks of exposure to asbestos in a workplace are managed by the Control of Asbestos Regulations 2012, which is monitored by the Health and Safety Executive. For every workplace under those regulations, there is a duty holder responsible for monitoring the condition of the asbestos. They are required to keep up-to-date records of the location and condition of all asbestos-containing materials, to provide that information to anybody liable to disturb the materials, and to develop a plan for managing any risks which arise. Now, residential blocks with a commercial freeholder will generally also have a duty holder because the block will have been for them a workplace. So it's covered by the Control of Asbestos regulations. It's usually the freeholder or their agent who is the duty holder. And that duty holder is responsible for all the common areas in the block, such as foyers and staircases. Now, the effectiveness of this whole regime is debatable. The sixth report in the 2021-22 session of the Work and Pensions Select Committee expressed considerable reservations. It is doubtful, I think, that the Health and Safety Executive is doing enough to monitor compliance, and the assumption that leaving asbestos in place is better than removing it is increasingly questionable as the asbestos ages. But there is at least a clear regime for managing the risks. The concern that motivates this new clause is that following a transfer of the kind made possible and facilitated by the bill, there will no longer be a duty holder for the communal areas in that block. At the moment there is, but the responsibility will be entirely extinguished, as far as I understand it, on transfer. The asbestos is still going to be there, the risks will remain, but nobody will any longer be responsible for managing them. No individual resident, understandably, will take on the responsibility, but there'll be no corporate entity to do it either. And in fact, it may be worse than that. The residents may well not be aware before the transfer is completed that they are taking on both a financial liability for managing the asbestos in the communal areas and possibly a risk to life as well. And I think it's important to bear in mind that we are seeing 5,000 deaths per year at the moment as a result of past exposure to asbestos. So the Minister said in his response in committee that the amendment, quote, would duplicate the existing duty in Regulation 4 of the Control of Asbestos Regulations 2012 for landlords to survey the common areas of their property. But the newly enfranchised property would not fall any longer under Regulation 4. There'll be no landlord to survey the common areas once the transfer has taken place. So new clause 24 aims to prevent this problem occurring. It requires landlords to perform a detailed survey of the asbestos present in the building within 3 months of a transfer taking place, and then requires the landlord to remove any asbestos which is there. There is at the moment a 150% tax relief for businesses removing asbestos from premises, so delivering removal will not be costly for the landlords. It will save newly enfranchised leaseholders from a large and probably unexpected liability and from a potentially lethal long-term risk as well. So I hope, Mr Deputy Speaker, that makes the case for this change clear. Let me finally make this point. I'm very grateful to the Minister for his assistance with the residents of Barrier Point in my constituency, and I think we now have a meeting in his office coming up next month. Last night I had a Zoom call with, a regular Zoom call with leaseholders from Waterside Park in my constituency. Before Christmas we thought we had a clear way forward. Barrett's, the builders, have signed up. Aviva, the current freeholder, was happy. Last night on the Zoom call we learnt that the requirement of the building safety regulator to look at any proposals for a minimum 8-week period is going to very substantially delay the work which has been committed. And I do wonder whether the Minister can look at that and whether really it is necessary to insert another 8 weeks wait for residents who've been waiting so long for these problems to be resolved.
The Honourable Gentleman from East Ham, we are looking at the point about the building safety regulator, and I'm happy to talk to him separately when I meet with the Right Honourable Gentleman with regards to Barrier Point. On asbestos, I have checked during the time that since he stood up. We do not believe that right is extinguished. But if we are not correct on that, I am keen to discuss it with him further to make sure that we understand exactly how that regime will work in practice and to try to assuage his concerns.